Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ben here, and today I'm going to be making a video talking about the 2008 to 2009 Houston Rockets and how, if it weren't for injuries, they could have been NBA champions. So to start off with, I'll give a bit of background. I'll just talk about their roster and some acquisitions that they made leading up to this season. So in 2007 to 2008, the Rockets had some good regular season success. They had a really long win streak. I think it was around 20-ish games. They had a 22-game win streak into the 2007 to 8 season. They finished 55-27 as the 5th seed in the West. And in the playoffs, they lost in the first round. And they had, just besides the regular season, a very quiet postseason. The main guys on this team were Shane Battier, Rafer Alston, obviously Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming, and Bobby Jackson and Luis Scola. Now leading into this next season, 2008 to 2009, the major difference on the team was that they traded Bobby Jackson to the Kings to acquire Ron Artest, who was a very big part of this 2008 to 2009 team. And then also Rafer Alston got traded mid-season, and basically a salary dump, honestly, and they didn't really get much back that was useful for him. Von Wafer is who they got back, who really didn't make that much big of a difference on the team. Von Wafer and Brian Cook, I think, were who they got back, if I am correct. Neither guy really paid many dividends or anything. But going into 08 to 09, they had as their starting lineup basically Aaron Brooks and then Tracy McGrady, who played a little under half the season and had missed a lot of the season because of injury. And then when he was out, they had Shane Battier and Metta World Peace as sort of like the 2 and the 3, and then Luis Scola and Yao Ming as the 4 and the 5. During the season, Aaron Brooks averaged 11 points a game at point guard with about 3 assists a game. Tracy McGrady averaged 16 points a game, Ron Artest averaging 17 points a game, Yao Ming averaging 20 and 10, and Luis Scola averaging 13 and 9, and Shane Battier was averaging 7 points and 5 rebounds a game. But if you don't know much about Shane Battier, offense wasn't really his thing as much as his defense. This season, Yao Ming made the All-NBA second team, and Ron Artest and Shane Battier both made the All-NBA or All-Defensive second team as well. So those guys were really playing well on defense that season. The Rockets finished at 53-29, and that was good enough for 5th in the West. But the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th seed all only won 54 games. So the Rockets were actually only 1 game worse than being the 2 seed in the West. Now this is where I say that the first part of why I think that injuries derailed their season is because I think if T-Mac would have played, let's say, even 60 games, 70, like if he would have had a fully healthy season, which for him in his entire career was around 60 to 70 games, I think him being around would have been worth them winning around 2 more games minimum. And with that being said, it would be the difference between them being the 2 seed and being the 5 seed. Now, if they would have been the 2 seed, they would have played New Orleans in the first round instead of Portland. Portland was a better team. They had 54 wins in this season, and New Orleans only had 49. And New Orleans just generally was a bit of a weaker team as far as just being the 7th seed, being a little lower down. Outside Chris Paul, they didn't have much. So they would have had an easier time with them in the first round, I think, and they would not have been pushed to 6 games, so they would have been able to preserve their health a bit better. Now moving on to the 2nd round is where I think this would have made a big difference, in that they would not have faced the Los Angeles Lakers, but they would have actually faced the Denver Nuggets. Now, I think that Denver and this Houston team would be pretty comparable talent. Denver, you had Chauncey Billups, Carmelo Anthony, J.R. Smith, Kenyon Martin, and Nene as their main guys. And I think that's pretty comparable to the talent that the Rockets had between Yao Ming, Artest, and T-Mac, with supporting guys like Scola, Battier, and Aaron Brooks. And so I think that it would have been a close series, but I do think that there was more talent on the Rockets than there was on the Nuggets, because outside of Carmelo Anthony and Chauncey Billups, there weren't really any guys that could create their own offense, whereas the Rockets had Yao Ming, Ron Artest, and Tracy McGrady, who could all create their own offense. So if they would have had those three guys healthy for the playoffs, I think that they could have beaten that Nuggets team. And so that would have led them to the conference finals, where they would have played the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, in real life, these teams ended up playing in the second round because the Rockets were the 5 seed. And in that series, let's see here. In that series, it went to 7 games. Yao Ming went down after game 3, and at that point, the Lakers were up 2-1. And so then the Rockets won game 5 by 12 points, so it was 2-2. Lakers won game 4. Lakers won game 5, so they're up 3-2. Rockets won game 6, so it's 3-3, and then the Lakers won game 7. But I think that if you give them Yao Ming for the entire series, along with T-Mac for the entire series, that they definitely could have won one of the games that they lost. You look at any one of these games, one of them they lost by 13, another one they lost by 14. I think that combined, Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming could make up for that 13 to 14 point difference. And I think that the Rockets honestly could have won. If you look at their rosters top to bottom, they were of comparable talent with everyone healthy. Aaron Brooks and Derek Fisher, pretty similar probably talent level. Tracy McGrady, if healthy, worse than Kobe at this point, but still like a respectable player. Ron Artest versus Trevor Ariza. Ron Artest was definitely better at this point. You look at power forward Luis Scola and Pau Gasol. Definitely Pau Gasol is better. But then you look at Bynum versus Yao Ming, and Yao Ming was definitely better. So within that starting lineup, you have basically one being equal, and the Lakers having 2 better players at their matchups, and the Rockets having 2 better players. So it's pretty equal as far as that goes. And then coming off the bench, I'd say that Shane Battier was about just as valuable to the Rockets as Lamar Odom was to the Lakers at this time. But when you think about it, the Rockets got to 7 games against the Lakers with basically, honestly, after Yao Ming went out and they were down 2-1, they had Ron Artest and basically Luis Scola was the second option on the team. Shane Battier played okay, but Luis Scola, I think, for that series was averaging around 15 to 16 points a game. And Aaron Brooks was averaging a bit more too. Actually, in the playoffs this season, Aaron Brooks averaged 17 points a game. Metta World Peace averaged 16, Luis Scola 14 for both of their playoff series. So I think that they definitely could have overcome the Lakers because Aaron Brooks was really playing above his normal talent level, and Luis Scola was too. So I think that they would have had enough talent with Yao staying healthy and Tracy McGrady staying healthy for them to have overcome the Lakers. And I think that the Magic wouldn't have been too much of a problem for them because they actually match up pretty well with them. I think Yao Ming could basically neutralize whatever Dwight was doing, so that would be neither team would really have an advantage at center. At power forward, I think you'd probably say Rashard Lewis is a little bit better than Luis Scola. At small forward, Hedo Turkoglu versus Ron Artest, I'd say that they would cancel out. Shooting guard, I'd say that Tracy McGrady at this point would have been better than Courtney Lee. And then at point guard, it was Rafer Alston because he was replacing the injured Jameer Nelson. So it was Rafer Alston versus Aaron Brooks, and I'd say those two are about even. So really, it comes down to the bench because those starting lineups are pretty comparable. And the starting lineup or the bench of Orlando didn't really have anything. They had like a really young J.J. Redick who wasn't all that experienced. But then off the bench for the Rockets, they had Shane Battier, who I think would have been a way better, or it would be a better sixth man than anything the Magic could come up with. They also had off the bench Dikembe Mutombo, and I think that he would be an underrated defensive presence in all of these series that no one was really talking about. And that was really their team off the bench. They had Chuck Hayes too, who did not much, but so yeah, I like the depth of Houston a little bit more than Orlando. So I definitely think that Houston could have won the title this season. I think that unfortunately this was basically the last we saw of Tracy McGrady, not as just a bench player who wasn't really doing much. Like, I would say he wasn't in his prime anymore. I'd say the year before this was the last year of his prime, but he was still putting up 16 points a game in the half a season that he was playing. So he was still like a good starter, like a good contributor to a team. He shot about 40% from the field, which wasn't great, but what are you going to do? He still was a guy who could give you buckets when you needed them. And so I think that if he would have stayed healthy, they would have been looking a lot better. And if Yao would not have gone down against the Lakers, everything would have been a bit different. And ultimately, this all would have been way different because I think with Tracy McGrady healthy during the regular season, they would have been a 2 seed instead of a 5 seed and had an easier road to the finals. Instead of having to play the Lakers in the second round, they would have seen them in the conference finals a round later once they had built up more momentum. And with everyone healthy, I think they definitely would have beat them. But that's all I really got for this video, guys. I just want to shed some light on a team that I don't think gets talked about that much. I think that they were a very underrated big three in McGrady, Ron Artest, and Yao Ming, because McGrady was unhealthy for about half the season, so we never really got to see what a full season of those guys together along with a playoff run would have looked like. I think it, obviously, as I said, I think that they would have won a championship, and it would have been super impressive, and they would be remembered a lot more distinctly as a really good team in NBA history. But because of the injuries, their hopes were dashed, and they didn't get to hold up a trophy like they deserved, or like I thought. They didn't deserve it because they hadn't really proven anything yet, but I think that they definitely would have won the title is what I'm getting at if injuries wouldn't have hampered them. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it a little informative. And if you have any comments, leave them below, and I'd love to hear from you. Have a good day, guys. Bye.